Hello friend, Ben Ochart here. Thank you for tuning in. And today we're going to talk about a type of filter that is becoming more and more popular. I saw it at the recent Aquashella exhibit in Orlando, Florida. Oase had some of them. Sicce also has one called the Shark, and it's just becoming more popular. I have, of course, what are called the Xpertmatic. The Xpertmatic filters. I'll include a link up here on some of the Xpertmatic reviews I've done in the past. And if you don't mind the way it looks inside the tank, it provides you the benefits of sponge filtration, a power head and a bubbler. Very easy to maintain and work on. And I'm going to show you in this video how I do that. So let's go ahead and jump right into it, and let's go. Currently, I'm using 4 of these internal filters, one in that 55 gallon with the 2 viejas in it, 2 in this 55 gallon with South and Central American fish, and I have one in what used to be a hospital tank but is now has sort of morphed into a community tank. Some people don't like the way they look. I don't mind the way they look. They do a great job. You do get the benefits of power heads and sponges and a bubbler for lots of oxygen. They'll tell you when they need to be serviced because they go a little bit dark, and the bubbles will be noticeably less in volume, and that's your cue to give it to service it. I'm servicing this one a little bit sooner than normal, just for the sake of the video. And the first thing I do is I bag it so that I don't end up with a lot of gunk breaking free from the sponge and then floating in the tank. Like any sponge filter, it's a good idea to put it in a bag before you start moving it around, because it will shed detritus everywhere. And so I just get a baggie, the kind of baggie you get when you buy a guppy at your local fish store, and I just go ahead and just wrap it around all three compartments, making sure I don't take a curious dwarf rainbow with me. And I do it with the power head still attached and running. That way it holds on to the waste. If I turn that power head off and start messing with it, it will start to release waste into the tank, and I don't want to see that. So the power head helps provide some suction, and that keeps the bag nice and snug around the cylinder as I pull it up. Once it's all the way up, I just simply work the 3 components, 3 parts from the power head. I let the power head continue to run. I've never had it suck up a fish, and the bubbles get much stronger the second I disconnect the sponges, of course, because they were being blocked a little bit by detritus. The liquid you see in that bag there is what, of course, came out of the sponges. Normally it's so black you can't see the plastic containers, but as I said before, I'm servicing this filter a little early just for the sake of the video. Usually what I pour out of that bag is black. Disassembling it is simple, and I've sped it up for the sake of this video, and it amazes me just how much gunk these sponges can hold. They have a center compartment that's used for charcoal. I don't use it. I don't use charcoal activated carbon in my tanks unless I'm trying to get rid of meds. There's some specific reason. You're wondering why I'm using tap water instead of tank water. There's a couple reasons. One, you see the tank there up in the upper right. There's a lot of decor, a lot of substrate, and there's a second filter that is not being disturbed during this process. So I don't really worry about killing off or creating some type of ammonia spike in my tank by using tap water on these sponges. Now, if this was a 29 gallon or a 10 gallon and this was the only filter and I had a bare bottom tank, yes, I'd be rinsing it in tank water, because there's a much bigger, higher probability that that the bulk of your beneficial bacteria is living in those sponges. That's not the case in this tank. And also, if you test my tap water, you'll find that it's very low in ammonia and chlorine and chloramine, almost at zero. So again, not really an issue. This is the top sponge, and it's always the dirtiest one, the one closest to the power head. And you really want to keep these clean, not so much because of the waste, because the waste of course becomes inert after a while, but you want to keep them clean because if they're not, they get blocked, and then your filter can't do what it's supposed to do, which is to remove those things that are floating around in your tank. So I try and keep the sponges fairly clean, and I don't overdo it. I'd say maybe once a month I'll pull one of these out, maybe a little longer at times, depending on how heavily stocked and how heavily I'm feeding. I give it all a good scrub. I want it to look as close to perfectly clean as possible without going too overboard or driving myself too crazy. But I use a simple dish brush, the kind you can buy in any store, getting into the grooves and the edges where the algae and other things tend to darken it the most. These sponges have a center section that kind of holds it all together. Be sure those snap in place exactly the way they're supposed to, or else it will not hold together. There it is, ready to go. Let's get it back into the tank after I do a couple steps first. Whenever I do anything major to a tank, like filter maintenance, I'll go ahead and condition the tank. Just a little bit of a safeguard to make sure I don't unintentionally disrupt things too much and create a bit of an ammonia spike or a sort of mini cycle. So I'm a little cautious on this end, whereas on the other end you notice I'm using tap water. So maybe I'm contradicting myself, but I've learned the hard way that it's not a bad idea to condition your tank after doing anything major. Adding a bunch of fish, messing with the substrate too much, taking out decor plants, anything that might disrupt things. Always a good idea to hit the tank with a little bit of conditioner. Doesn't hurt. While I have the filter off the power head, it's a good idea to get in there and scrub areas that normally I would not be able to reach because of the filter. So I go ahead and I clean that wall, and if I happen to get my scrubber into the sand, I really make it a point to really shake all that sand out, because at that point it becomes sandpaper. It'll just score the heck out of your glass. So let's go ahead and get the unit back in there, and it's a very simple process of just simply pushing it back into the power head. If I wasn't filming, I'd probably, and I could get right in front of the tank, I'd probably use two hands and support the bottom of it, because sometimes as you push in the top of it, the bottom section will pop off, and that's a bit of a drag. But this one popped on pretty easily, and then by putting my hand on top I could secure it. Make sure your air hose, your venturi hose, is outside of the tank, not sucking in water, and preferably taking in air above the water line. And then I just do my final touches of positioning it with the bubbles and power head pointed towards the back of the tank. I have a little scrubby here. Came with the Marineland 400 hang-on back filter. I use that just to do a little cleanup in the output tube. Just do a little brush up there, a little touch up on it. The plant is in place there to disguise, sort of hide the filter, but you don't want to hide it too well, because it's not going to be able to get to the detritus, and waste isn't going to be able to make its way to the filter if you have it disguised behind a jungle of plants. So just enough to kind of kind of break the line of sight a little bit, but still give the filter enough room to do its job. You'll notice that the bubbles coming out of it now are a lot stronger than before cleaning the filter. One of the reasons I point the power heads towards the back is because I have these tall, flat fish. These are dwarf rainbows. Very pretty. And the chocolate cichlid in there is not sharing his cave with anybody. So they're out there free swimming, and you don't want them blown around by the power heads. In just a few minutes, anything that might have been floating around the tank from my having messed with the filters is pretty much cleaned up and absorbed. These filters, as I'm sure the Sicce shark and probably the Oase, they all do a real good job at absorbing detritus. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed that, and if you did and you haven't already done so, be sure to hit that subscribe button, the thumbs up, and the notification bell, and that'll tell YouTube something good is going on here, and encourage YouTube to share the channel with other fish keepers like you and me. That's how the channel grows, and I thank you for doing that. If you'd like to support the channel further, consider becoming a member of the Garage Gang, a Patreon member, and consider using the Amazon link shop on Amazon and pick up some Teespring swag by visiting my Teespring store. All that information is underneath the video, and be sure to comment if you have any thoughts or ideas that you'd like to share. I'd like to hear them in the comments below. Last, I'd like to see you on Saturday at the Cichlids and Coffee live stream. That's every Saturday at 11 a.m. That's 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. We'll get into this and a whole bunch of other subjects related to fish keeping, and I hope to see you there. Thank you, my friends. You are appreciated. I think I covered all of it. See you next time. Bye-bye.